perhaps. So let's say you've got your first book written, you've used your checklist, you've used your app, perhaps, you've had all that support, you've done your interviews, you've got it all down into one place. You're beginning to move towards looking to get it published. Do you want to talk through the various ways and the mechanics there?
Yeah. I mean, it's an important part of the puzzle, and it's probably one you should tackle in parallel with writing the book.
Right.
Rather than write your manuscript and then think, what do I do with this? Because how you publish, how you get your book out there actually has an impact on what you do or how you do it. In days gone by, I'm sounding so old, so last century, you would go...
We're all last century.
Actually, you're right there, except Sorrel, I think, or the engage. She seems terribly young to me. Some of the other wonderful staff behind the scenes here. What we used to do was go to the Writers and Artists Yearbook, and this lists, and it is humongous. It lists all the publishers that exist in your country, and they have various versions of this. If you're in the United States, they have a Bowker's publication. But you can trawl through this, and you can still find publishers who will accept proposals from authors. You don't always have to have an agent. For fiction, pretty much you have to have an agent. But here, it will actually tell you. So Penguin Random House won't take a publication, won't take a proposal from you. But Bloomsbury Press will accept a proposal. So have a look at the publishers in areas close to you, close to the books that have an interest for you. Pull one off your shelf and see in something like Writers and Artists Yearbook, do they accept proposals? And then you've got to craft a proposal. So to get a book published by a traditional publisher is going to take you some effort. Partly because, I mentioned Barrett Kohler Publishers. He gets something like 1,000 proposals a year. They can only handle 40. So it's a pretty stiff selection process. And the selection process includes, how big is your community? How many people are you regularly in touch with? So for me as a professor, I have a number of students or executives. I will actually come across 6,000 people a year in a class, which is an amazing opportunity to sell them my book, whether as a textbook or if you have a community on LinkedIn that is very engaged with you, it's possible that you could sell copies, because the business model of the publisher is they want your book. They will front end it for you. They will print it for you. They get their money on the back end. People have this idea that publishers, you don't pay to give your book to a traditional publisher. That's not true. You just pay when it's published. They deduct the fee from your sales. So that's one of the reasons why you won't make any money from the direct sales of a publisher. And yet their business model is shift copies of the book. So the advantage of going with a traditional publisher is they will handle all the technical publishing stuff for you. You don't have to learn how to publish. You don't have to learn typography. You don't have to find a printer. You don't have to find a designer. However, you will have no control over the design. You won't be able to influence the cover, the way the thing looks. You won't be able to get copies of your book except by buying them from the publisher. They will charge you 50, 60, 70, 75% of the cover price to get copies of your own book to give away at a seminar. So you pay in arrears with a traditional publisher. Mm. If you want to self-publish, it is now totally possible for you to, as David Meerman Scott has done with this book, to write your book in Word, to go onto the Amazon platform and put it on Kindle, or the process called print on demand. So self-publishing is entirely possible. And this, once they'd finished their manuscript, it took David and Michelle Manafee, I think 10 days to get that on Amazon. And it's print on demand. So you order a copy and you can tell if you've got print on demand books because at the very back it says printed in whatever country you are by Amazon. That's pretty cool because it means that you as an author don't have to print 1,000 copies or 200 copies and have them sitting under your bed until you sell them. So print on demand is an extremely fast and good way to get your work out there, but you have to understand the process.
So that's an interesting question. Just sorry to cut across you there, just to help the audience. So is there a hierarchy in terms of if you get a publisher, does that look better than if you publish on demand, or is that an old-fashioned kind of viewpoint?
It's a weird myth that keeps going. I think in the business community, unless you're published by Harvard Business Press, I don't think it really matters.
Right.
Probably have come across From Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Yeah.
My guess is you don't know who published that, which means that you really don't care. I mean, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, Pat Lencioni. Who published Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective? We don't know the names of these publishers. In theory, if you're published, it means that somebody has put the eye of quality control over it, and it's kind of, got the rubber stamp of approval. Somebody somewhere took that. But you know what? The quality of some of these things is not so good. The last book that we ran with a publisher was Leadership Unplugged. And the reason it's the last book that we gave to a publisher with Palgrave Macmillan was we discovered in the same season that there was a book called Redefining Finance for Financial Managers. I forget the exact title. But it had the same subtitle, The New Renaissance of Value Propositions. So the publisher our book came out second. So it was done at the same time. The books were done in the same season. And somebody had basically had this pretty much the same cover, copy and paste, and the book had gone out. So it's a myth that mainstream publishers also are pretty good on the marketing and design side. Marketing was a problem for Leadership Unplugged. On all books, there's a barcode at the back. In the days when they still had price labels, they put a price label over the barcode. So W. Smith rejected it. So it's a myth that traditional publishers actually have that high quality status. Right. Also, I think that the way you can control quality, if you take charge, our most recent book, which came out this week, is called Cunningly, You Should Write a Book. I think that's a pretty nice design, nice color. We did the design ourselves. You do it in Photoshop. If you pay someone to do a really good design for you, if you pay someone to get a really nice typography inside, you can produce something that is really, really quite smart, if not better than a traditional publisher. It just depends what quality standards you're working to.
Right. Okay.
So you understand the process, or if you hire someone who understands the process, you can do something that the quality is as good, if not better, than a mainstream publisher. So I think it's a hang up from the old days when we had this phrase called vanity publishing, when somebody would have their poems published, they would pay no matter how rubbish my poems are, I just want to see them in a book. Self-publishing is not vanity publishing. Right. The amount of effort that you have to go to put a book out there, it's quite something. That is not vanity publishing. That is some effort.